Tonight on the Sideline, we take a look at how the men's and women's basketball teams are doing. Then we have an in-studio interview with the cross-country runners who ran at Nationals. Then we have national and regional sports news. And as always, we finished up with a case of the week. All that and more as we head on down to the Pioneer Sideline. Welcome to the Pioneer Sideline. I'm your host, Chris Hoffman. The women's basketball team has started off the year undefeated. Johnie Freiwald now joins me to see if they could keep the good streak going.
The Point Park women's basketball team is still undefeated heading into the 5th week of the season. The girls took on WVU Tech and Wilberforce over Thanksgiving break. They started off last week with WVU Tech on Saturday, November 23rd, giving them a 7-0 record. The Pioneers beat the Golden Bears at home with a score of 85-76. Freshman guard Selena DiPetro was the high scorer of this game with a total of 19 points. Close behind her was Alexa Yankis with 18 points. This game was a close match, reaching a score of 41-38 at halftime. The game continued to be close, tying a total of 5 times. The girls also beat Wilberforce, bringing the girls to an impressive record of 8-0. The girls traveled to Ohio for another close game. The Pioneers trailed for most of the game, making a comeback late in the second half. Though it was a close game, it was not a low-scoring game, especially for freshman Samantha Weir, who was once again the top scorer of the game with 20 points and 12 rebounds. With such a back-and-forth game, Wilberforce came out of the gate at halftime with a force and led the beginning of the second half. The last 20 minutes of the game was once again back and forth, but the Pioneers took on the win with a final score of 77-68.
Now, Johnny, you look at the Pioneers here. They start off 8-0, regardless if some of these teams maybe were a little bit easier opponents out of conference. But the Pioneers there, Johnny, 8-0. How impressive is that to start the season after going to the national tournament last year?
It's so impressive since they're going in to the season completely undefeated. After coming off that championship last year, it's really impressive and gives them hope to go back.
Now, Johnny, you look at this young team. They got a lot of young freshmen stepping in when players such as Jania McFadden went down. Katrisa Savitsky went down as well. She's now back in the lineup. But you look at Samantha Weir, only a freshman, and she's putting up double-doubles every game. How big of a addition has she been to this team this season?
Like you said, she is such a huge addition. With those double-doubles every game, she is leading that team hand in hand and is really being impressive. And it's incredible that such a young player can step up like that.
All right, thanks, Johnny. The Pittsburgh area has been in the news lately for sports, and Eddie Trizzino has this week's regional sports report.
Thanks, Chris. The Steelers suffered a loss to division rival the Baltimore Ravens in their game played on Thanksgiving. The final score of the game was 22-20. The Ravens got off to a considerable lead in the first 2 quarters, scoring 10 points, while the Steelers failed to score at all. The Steelers made a slight comeback, though, in the 3rd quarter, scoring 7 points, while the Ravens scored again for a total of 16 points. In the 4th quarter, the Steelers managed to put up a fight but could not take the lead, as Emmanuel Saunders dropped the 2-point conversion pass that would have tied the game, leading the Ravens to their 22-20 victory. The Steelers now have 5-7 record this season, but the real news of the game happened on the sidelines as Pittsburgh coach Mike Tomlin apparently attempted to interfere with the Ravens player Jacoby Jones' kick return when he moved too close to the field, as well as Jones. The incident was caught on camera, wherein Tomlin steps onto the field right as Jones is running by and is forced to maneuver away from Tomlin. Tomlin claims that he became disoriented while watching the Jumbotron during the play and accidentally moved onto the field. The NFL is still looking into the incident, which may cost the Steelers a draft pick and a fine. In hockey news, the Pittsburgh Penguins defeated the Florida Panthers 5-1 on Saturday, bringing the Pens to a 3-game win streak and a record of 18-9-1. Evgeny Malkin was on a hot streak the game, scoring a goal and having 3 assists in his time on the rink. This brings his total points of the season to 35, putting him just 1 behind teammate Sidney Crosby. The Panthers outshot the Pens by a long shot 40-22, but failed to get past goalie Jeff Zatkoff more than once in the entire game. In Pitt sports news, the men's basketball team has a perfect record on the season. Most recently, the team played the city game against Duquesne University on Saturday, winning 84-62. Junior Cameron Wright scored a career-high 20 points in the game and had 5 assists and 5 rebounds. Senior Talib Zaina scored 13 points, and senior Lamar Patterson scored 18. Pitt got off to a rough start in the first half of the game, with Duquesne leading in points by double digits for most of the half. The Dukes didn't lead for long when the second half rolled around because Pitt scored enough points to catch up to the Dukes and later pull away in the last 15 minutes of the game. This is Pitt's 13th straight win against Duquesne, although the Dukes have held the biggest lead at halftime against the Panthers so far this season. That's all I have for regional sports this week.
Now, Eddie, you mentioned the Pitt Panthers have won the last 13 straight city games. Is this still really a rivalry, or are the Pitt Panthers really just basically beating up on a little bit more of an inferior opponent in Duquesne?
Well, I guess you can't really call it a rivalry when one team obviously has been taking the lead in mostly every competition they've had.
Now, Eddie, I got to ask your opinion. It's highly controversial. Do you think Mike Tomlin did that on purpose, or do you think it was just an accident?
You know, I watched the footage, and he looks like a pretty intimidating guy trying to intimidate Jones, so it looks pretty suspicious to me, but you never know what he did.
All right, thanks, Eddie. After the break, Johnie Freiwald joins me again to see how the men's basketball team did over the Thanksgiving break. We'll be right back after this.